These are stories read by Visual Pony, who is on his 5-year mission to find amazing stories, discover strange crossovers, and read tales that no one has read before. The Twilight Enigma by iisaw. Chapter 11. Ups and Downs, in which several surprising discoveries are made, and it is shown that poetry is not always pleasant. May 6, 1014. Morning. On the labyrinthine stairs.
Rainbow Dash, Rarity, keep looking at Applejack. Don't take your eyes off her. What's a hate, why?
Dash asked, even though she kept her gaze on AJ.
I don't think the stairs can shift if they're being observed. We need to keep Applejack's relative position stable until she can get to us.
Our obvious way out was gone, and I'd have to figure out how to find it again, but first we needed to get into one group and stay together.
Pinkie Pie, Fluttershy, you two look around for anything that might look like an exit. Or those spiral stairs we came down. If you see them, say something, but don't look away. Try not to blink. Okie dokie Loki!
Of course, Pinkie would sound cheerful about being caught in an ancient magical trap. I figured out a path and tried to keep it all in my field of vision.
Applejack, take the wooden stairs to your left. Climb up to the third landing.
She stumbled halfway up the first flight and scrambled to her hoofs with a frightened gasp, looking around frantically until she caught sight of us again.
It's okay!
I called out to her.
Dash and Rarity are watching you all the time. You can look at the stairs if you need to.
AJ said something too low for me to make out and resumed climbing. It took nearly 10 minutes for me to get Applejack to the landing where the rest of us stood. She practically galloped down the last set of stairs and barreled into us, gasping in relief.
It's okay, dear,
Rarity said from somewhere inside the group hug.
You're back with us and everything is going to be fine. Oh my,
Fluttershy said.
You're all scratched and bruised. You poor thing. Does it hurt a lot?
No, it ain't too bad. I'm just scuffed up a mite. Could have been a lot worse.
Fluttershy insisted on giving her some painkillers and applying some ointment from her saddlebags. AJ made only a token protest.
Applejack, didn't you say something about glowing writing when we were coming down?
Yeah, Twilight, that's right. Before Rest lit up the place, it was pretty dark in here. I could barely see my hoof in front of my face. There was these funny-looking letters on all those steps. Not real bright, but glowing sure as shoot. They weren't like any kind of writing I've ever seen before.
That makes sense. If the labyrinth is magically active, it would need a pattern to guide it. If magic was back at full strength, I could make the runes glow. If I could read them, that might give me some idea how to find our way out of here.
Shucks, Twilight, just have Rarity turn off her horn for a bit. I could see them in the dark, and I ain't the least bit magical.
I shook my head.
Not except as a last resort. In the dark we won't be able to see the stairs, and I don't know how far they might shift. We need to get out of here as soon as possible, because some of the crew are bound to come looking for us any time now.
Applejack's eyes widened.
And if they go down the stairs by themselves...
Exactly.
We all turned to the search. It was Pinkie Pie who spotted the wrought iron spiral only a couple of minutes later.
Twilight, looky! I found it!
She cried out, pointing towards the stairs.
Good work, Pinkie. Now, you, Rarity and Applejack keep an eye on it while I figure out a way to get there.
The route I finally worked out was a convoluted one, and it was long enough that it took 2 of us working in tandem to nail it down at any one time. We leapfrogged our way along, alternatively fixing each part of the way in our field of vision, until one of the other girls could take over and let us move without worrying about losing sight of the exit. It was nerve-wracking and took entirely too long, but we made it. The spiral stairs led up out of the optic canal just as it had been when we first found it. We lost no time clambering up it.
Well, that's a relief. Ain't no pony passed this way after we went down,
Applejack said, pointing to the hoofprints in the sand.
Only 6 sets.
It seemed we had caught a bit of luck for a change.
Great! Okay, girls, new plan.
I said as we headed for the last steps and the tunnels through the rock slide.
In 2 days, my horn should be nearly healed and I should recover enough of my magic to come back for some serious exploring. The repairs on Nebula should be nearly complete by then, and that'll free up some of the crew to make a sort of visual chain that will make it a lot less risky.
I don't know, Twi.
Applejack objected.
Them zebras are still looking for us and are all hot to tan our hides. Maybe we ought to skedaddle and come back when things have cooled dynamite.
Don't be silly,
I said as I climbed out of the tunnel.
If they haven't found us by now, they are not likely to anytime soon.
From below us, at the base of the rock slide, came a voice in thickly accented Equish.
What you say is just not so. Come down here and make it slow. If you make use of wing or horn, your graves will fill this very morn.
The scar-faced Almagna, who had spoken, was backed by 2 other witch mares and over a dozen spear-carrying zebra stallions.
Oh, boo!
Said Pinkie Pie. I'm sure she spoke for all of us. When I didn't reply or move immediately, Scarface made a commanding motion and her 2 assistants unslung what appeared to be bandoliers of glass bulbs. Whatever those little spheres contained would surely be very unpleasant for us. It was well past time for me to shake off my surprise and do something.
Protect the treasure!
I screamed as loud as I could and shoved all my friends back into the tunnel with a rough burst of levitation. My head swam and I fell backwards, floundering with my wings to no effect. I didn't hit the ground because Applejack was quick-witted enough to get herself beneath me. It knocked the breath out of both of us, but at least I hadn't cracked my head open on the stone steps.
What are you talking about, Twilight?
Rarity asked hurriedly, keeping one eye on the tunnel entrance.
What treasure? No time!
I gasped.
Run!
One of the little bulbs of nastiness arced into the tunnel and Rarity tried to stop it with her magic. She gave a little eep of surprise as her levitation field slid off of the sphere without getting a grip and it smashed against the tunnel wall. There must have been some sort of somophobic coating on it. I hated it when my opponents were clever. I filled the tunnel with a shield just below where the contents of the bulb were flaring to life. My vision went white as a spike of pain shot through my head, but I managed to maintain the shield long enough to stop the primary blast. Applejack and Rainbow Dash caught me as I collapsed and carried me away from the rolling foulness that snaked down towards us when my shield failed.
Keep going!
I croaked at them. We made it to the head of the spiral stairs, whatever the bulb released having spent itself by then, but we could hear the echoing clatter of hoofs on stone behind us.
Twa,
Applejack hissed at me.
there ain't room to carry you down the stairs, can you?
I nodded and got my hoofs under myself.
Go on, down!
Rarity had to go first to provide light. AJ wanted me to go next.
No,
I said.
last, in case I use another.
I ain't no kind of magical expert, but I'm pretty sure you're gonna kill yourself if you try another spell,
She said sternly.
You get down them stairs, Twilight.
I didn't have the strength to argue. We got down to the first landing, Applejack coming last and actually walking backwards.
Now what, Twa?
Okay, I need to.
At that moment, Applejack cursed and I looked up in time to see Scarface sling an entire bandolier of the bulbs down the staircase and duck back into cover.
Close your eyes!
I screamed.
Close your eyes!
There was a second of darkness, and then the bulbs detonated like flashes of chain lightning as they bounced and shattered on the iron steps. Multicolored fire spewed from them and coated the landing and stairs below with hissing, burning destruction. From where we all stood on a marble platform, a furlong or so away, The conflagration was a terrifying sight, throwing a rippling pattern of light and shadows through the maze of stairs. If just one of us hadn't been brave enough to close her eyes on that onrushing doom, the magic of the labyrinth wouldn't have whisked us away in time. Heroes, those girls, every single one. Any pony who says different is a fool.
Wah!
Rainbow Dash said quietly. I'm sure she spoke for all of us.
Now what, Twilight?
Rarity asked as the flames and crackling sparks began to die down. I turned to face her and vomited on her hoofs.
Sorry.
I said.
I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to.
No, darling, Rarity said with a tight voice and wrinkled muzzle, daintily shaking each forehoof in turn.
I understand completely. You're not well.
I pulled a bandana out of a pocket on my vest with my teeth and offered it to her. She wiped off her hoofs as well as possible while I explained the plan in a halting voice.
They're going to come down the stairs to look for the treasure, if nothing else. The labyrinth will catch them. Maybe we'll get lucky and more of the Sultan's troops will come looking for them, get trapped as well.
Rarity wiped my mouth for me with a clean corner of the cloth.
What about Nebula and our crew? Captured. Had to be. Standing orders to surrender if discovered. No way they could win a fight against the fleet. Must have seen the avalanche dust. Bad luck. So we're just going to hide in here and hope they go away?
Rainbow Dash asked.
No waiting. We have to hurry.
Rainbow frowned and looked around at the confusion of stairs.
Hurry to where?
I grinned.
I know something you don't know,
I said in a soft, sing-song voice. Then I passed out.
Ruffles my feathers.
That there is called a breeze, if I ain't mistaken.
We're like in a cave. There shouldn't be a breeze. And it's a weird feeling, sorta greasy. Greasy breeze, greasy breeze! That's fun to say. Greasy breeze, greasy breeze, greasy breeze, greasy breeze! Oh, excuse me. I don't mean to interrupt, but I think Twilight is waking up. She looks just awful, poor thing.
I opened my eyes slowly. I felt awful. I stopped and tried to work some salvia into my mouth. Rarity floated a canteen over to me and I took a couple of small sips. The water fully revived the taste of dried vomit in my mouth and I nearly gagged. I spat out the water and rinsed once more before drinking.
How long was I out? Hard to tell, darling, but it probably hasn't been more than a couple of hours. Fluttershy said you'd be okay if we let you rest for a while.
Rarity looked pretty awful herself, as did the rest of the gang. They were like fillies on Nightmare Night, holding red lanterns under their chins in an effort to appear ghoulish. I looked down at the floor and saw the ancient runes there, glowing like old coals. I looked past the girls and saw the spidery symbols on the stairs behind them, stretching up into the darkness. I rolled up onto my belly and tried to get my hoofs under me.
Oh, Twilight,
Fluttershy said.
I don't think you should try to stand up just yet. I need to see the runes better,
I explained.
We need to hurry.
Rainbow Dash and Applejack moved to my sides for support, and Rarity added her levitation to help me standing.
You said that about hurrying before you passed out, but you didn't explain before, sank.
Dash said.
Was
my unhelpful reply as I began puzzling out the runes on the flight of ivory stairs in front of me.
So what's the hurry?
She persisted.
The crew,
I said.
Sooner or later, the zebras will take them back to the city to be imprisoned or worse. They may wait to see if they can catch us as well, but they won't wait forever. There's the Eye of Rashwa as well. Wait a second, we're gonna rescue the crew? How's that gonna happen? Maybe, hopefully, and I don't have time to explain. Move your hoofs so I can see that rune. But,
Dash and the rest got the message and stood quietly at the side of the landing so that I could examine the symbols. The runes were ancient and complex. Written languages change over time to reflect the inevitable evolution of day-to-day speech. So do the sigils and runes used to embed and control magical energy. It seemed a bit counterintuitive, because the mana used to construct spells doesn't change at all, but the attitude and philosophy of ponies towards magic does change, and psalmic symbology has to accurately model the mindset of the mages who employ it. Fortunately, I had made it a point to study psychosomastics after I had been trapped in the Wheel of the World. Being unable to read most of the spells that surrounded me there had been unbelievably frustrating. My studies had the added benefit of introducing me to structural concepts that modern mages didn't even have descriptive words for any longer. All of which is a very long-winded way of saying that I could read the ancient symbols surrounding me. I muttered.
Yes, that's fairly simple. So each step encodes a variable. Yeah, makes sense, but doesn't... Oh wait!
I began to laugh out loud.
Twilight?
Asked Pinky.
Are you happy or you're just going nutso again?
I waved a hoof at her.
The putty's natural response to the light, right? I'm just starting to appreciate the deviousness of the pony who made this place. What a cunning, clever mind! That's good?
Dash asked.
Now that I've figured out her little trick, it's great! The runes change when you walk over them. Look!
I tapped the first of the ivory stairs, and the symbol's transverse component changed from exopsalmic to endopsalmic.
See? Just walking along randomizes the effect of the spells. But now that I've noticed, it means I can set the runes to carry us to the other end of the maze, and back out again.
So, how is finding the treasure gonna help us to rescue the crow?
Applejack asked.
That's the thing,
I said as I tapped away at the rune components on the surrounding stairs.
What the labyrinth is protecting isn't mere gold and gems. I'm pretty sure it's magical items, maybe even... Oh darn, how did that happen? What?
Rarity gasped and her left eye twitched a bit.
That central symbol changed and I didn't... Wait.
I checked the relationship conduits between the mandala and the peripheral notes on the landing, and then laughed again.
Oh, that deceptive, brilliant pony! There are reflexive controls between disparate components of separate runes. But get this, they only activate on a set but unknown number of hoof taps. I'm going to have to figure out each number and the common denominator of all the links from each staircase attached to this landing.
And you're happy about that? Why exactly?
Applejack drawled.
Well, it wouldn't be fun if it was easy, would it?
There were sighs. There were eye rolls. Rarity said,
I think you got hit on the head a few too many times, darling.
Almost too quietly for me to hear. But they stood silently after that and let me work.
There!
I said at last, using a couple of precise taps to spin the delimiter of the mandala into its correct position.
Now all we have to do is close our eyes.
The ancient magic operated so smoothly that I wasn't even sure anything had happened until I opened my eyes again. Then the cavern echoed with our collective gasps and cries of surprise. There was no gold. There were no gems, jewels, books, or piles of money. There was only a single, gigantic structure. The mass of somically sensitive crystal in front of us must have been nearly twice the mass of the Crystal Empire Palace.
What the hey is that?
Rainbow Dash asked.
It's an engine,
I said.
What, like a big motor or something? Well, yes.
1.
It's a motor that drives a set of spells with nearly unimaginable strength.
I replied as I walked towards the curving panel of obsidian near the base of the engine. 1. No. The analogy is deeply flawed, and in that context the word engine only came into use after the more appropriate term mechani had fallen into disuse in the late 3rd century. But for Rainbow Dash, it was good enough.
So,
Dash began, but Rarity shushed her.
can you control it, Twilight, even without being able to use your magic? Will it be able to rescue the crew, or?
I ran my hoof over my vest, feeling the reassuring lump of the Talisman of Night in the secret pocket just over my heart.
Yes, I think I can control it, one way or another. Well, that's a relief to hear, darling.
Rarity paused and frowned slightly in puzzlement.
But if it's so magically powerful, why isn't it? Well, I'm sure you're much more knowledgeable than I am, but it doesn't feel alive. No, you're right, it's been deactivated,
I said, peering at the golden knobs and levers set into the obsidian slab.
Something like this is very dangerous except when under direct control, believe me.
I paused, debating whether or not to continue.
In fact, I'm pretty sure this thing is what killed that dragon.
I waved the hoof in the general direction of up. There was a profound silence for several moments. I continued to study the controls, and a growing sense of familiarity began to build in my mind.
There should be a connector, a focus. With it in place. There!
I pointed to a twin vertical needles of crystal that had a conspicuous gap between them.
The engine should become active. Like this?
Pinkie Pie asked, holding up an ebony case about the size of her head.
Where did you find that?
She just smiled and shrugged.
Wild magic,
I told myself.
Just don't ask. Thank you, Pinkie,
I said, taking the box from her. There was no lock, just a simple catch. I took a deep breath and opened it.
Oh,
I said.
Good or bad, old Twa?
Applejack asked, with only a tiny hint of panic in her voice.
Oh, as in, oh, it looks like I was right all along, and I don't quite know how to feel about it,
I said and held up the focus, a beautifully carved crystal sun.
That looks a lot like Princess Celestia's cutie mark,
Rainbow Dash said.
That's because she built this place and the labyrinth that guards it,
I said.
Wait a minute,
Rainbow Dash snapped.
We spent moons looking for this place last year, and you could have just asked the princess where it was? Are you kidding me?
It was time to come clean.
I did ask her, way back when I first found the old scroll that put me on the trail.
I held the crystal sun up and pushed it between the two needles. It floated into place and slowly began to spin.
Huh? I don't get it. She lied to me,
I said. The sun focus spun faster and faster, and the facets of the huge engine began to glow softly.
She told me that the labyrinth was just a legend.
Why in tarnation was the princess lie to you?
Applejack growled.
For the good of Equestria and the world. Because this engine is incredibly dangerous and she intended that it never be used again.
But that's exactly what you're fixing to do.
Applejack's frown deepened.
Were you planning on using this here Sigma-gigs even before we got ourselves in this pickle?
The sun began to emit soft rays of light, and the gigantic mass of crystal beyond brightened until the entire cavern glowed with the gentle colors of a summer dawn. I nodded.
For the good of Equestria and the world. Darling,
Rarity said, stepping between AJ and I.
Perhaps we should discuss this before you take any hasty action.
I gave her a sickly smile.
I always intended to tell you girls everything and talk it all out with you if we found this place,
I said as I surreptitiously slipped the Talisman of Night out of my vest.
But there's no time now.
I turned towards the obsidian control console to mask my movements. I wanted to make sure they wouldn't see me flip the chain of the talisman over my head until it was too late to stop me.
No time now.
Hello and thanks for watching this video. If you liked it, please hit that like button down below, since it really helps me out in the YouTube algorithm. And if you haven't already, why not subscribe to my channel? If you want to support the channel and all the content that I create, you can do so via Patreon at patreon.com/visualpony. The link is in the description. If you want more of my content, why not visit my website where I have everything organized into neat little categories. The address is visualpony.de. Here you can find all the information about upcoming releases and stories that are still in production. And now I'm signing off, my lovely viewers. Visual Pony,